Hello, everybody. Welcome to the UMA Alumni Association's June webinar, Networking Bootcamp. We're excited to cover this topic with you guys today. My name is Alexis, and I'm the Alumni Engagement Coordinator at UMA. While we wait for everyone to get settled in, I want to introduce you to our two speakers, Rustam Irani and Andrea Latimore. Rustam is the Vice President of Digital Marketing at Ultimate Medical Academy, and he has worked at UMA for almost 5 years. His goal is to support UMA's community of learning through strategic marketing efforts. Prior to working at UMA, Rustam was the co-founder of mobile marketing startup GigaTap. Rustam has an extensive history speaking to professionals at events and networking with others. Our second speaker, Andrea, is the Digital Marketing Manager at Ultimate Medical Academy. Andrea actually just celebrated her 6-year anniversary at UMA yesterday. Congratulations, Andrea.
Congrats.
Thank you. Quite an accomplishment. In Andrea's role, she's responsible for managing and developing digital marketing opportunities, which include key partnerships for UMA. She has over 20 years of advertising, marketing, and media experience and actively networks with several professional groups. So before Rustam and Andrea begin presenting on the topic, I want to give you guys a quick breakdown of the webinar. Rustam and Andrea will speak for roughly 30 to 35 minutes, and then they'll open up the last 10 to 15 minutes for the question and answer session. So you can send your questions at any time in the questions box, and we'll collect them, and they will address as many as possible at the end. We also wanted to let you know that you are muted to prevent noise interference during the webinar. So if you have a question, be sure to send it in that questions box that I just referenced, since we are unable to hear you. So thanks for joining us. Let's begin.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our Networking Bootcamp. We are looking forward to covering some awesome networking strategies during this webinar. So we're going to start out with what is networking. So Rustam, can you tell us what is networking?
All right, Andrea. That's an excellent question, and definitely a great place to get started. Networking is so many different things to many people, right? Networking could be looked at as an MLM, so multi-level marketing, or what you would maybe think of as Amway, maybe an Avon, Mary Kay. People think of networking as those MLM groups. Networking could also be on social media, right, with your Facebook friends.
Right.
I know we talk about that a lot.
Yes.
And who we're tweeting about. But it also might just be interacting with other friends, family members, and just in general with people whenever you're out. What's your definition, Andrea?
Yeah, so those are all great definitions. So the basic definition for networking is interacting with other people to exchange information, develop contacts, and or formulate relationships.
All right, that's a great definition, Andrea, although I think that's a little formal, right?
Absolutely.
So that might be the definition out of Google or Wikipedia, but let's start off and really jump into kind of the most important thing in this boot camp, right, which is what we've developed, and that's really what you should and should not do in a networking event, and really what we call the do's and don'ts of networking. So I'll go ahead and jump into the first networking do, right? And this is always an interesting one when you go into networking events and you see how some people dress, but you want to make sure you're dressing professionally, right? Or at least dressing for the occasion. I think it's very interesting sometimes. I go to a networking event, I look around the room, and I literally will go to a formal event and see people in flip-flops. And right next to them is somebody in a suit and tie, fully dressed, and they're talking to them about a job opportunity. I think it's very important to make sure you dress professionally, dress for the occasion, and make sure you live that good impression, right?
Right. So Rustam, dressing professionally means what? What does that attire absolutely look like?
Yeah, so I think that's different for different events. But for the most part, if you're going to a networking event, you're looking for a job or that next move in your career, you probably want to wear, for men, it'd be dress pants, dress shirt, maybe a tie, depending on the time of day or the event. And then I guess for women, as you'd probably know, and you look like you're dressed pretty professionally right now.
Always.
She's our fashionista over here. But you'd want to wear pants or a dress skirt, and then, definitely closed-toed shoes or nice open-toed shoes and heels. That'd be definitely what I would suggest.
Well, that's great. Dressing professional is key when you're heading to a networking event. But the number 2 do is to come prepared with an elevator pitch.
Uh-oh.
So some are probably wondering, what on earth is an elevator pitch? An elevator pitch is a quick 10-second overview of who you are and what you're there for. So, for example, if you're looking for a job, you can say, "Hi, I'm Andrea Latimore, and I just recently graduated from Ultimate Medical Academy with a healthcare management associate degree, and I'm looking for advice on how I can move forward in this industry."
That would work for me, Andrea.
How does that? Yeah, that's great,
absolutely.
Huh? So, or if you're someone who already has a job and you're looking for your next opportunity, your elevator pitch could sound something like this. "Hi, I'm Andrea Latimore, and I'm currently in healthcare management looking to take my current experience and skills and utilize them in a medical administrative position." So those are 2 different types of elevator pitches. Whichever one works for you for your situation. Just have one ready.
And I think with that, Andrea, I think it's important, if you're going to do something like that, practice it at home, right? Stand in front of a mirror,
yes.
Write it on a piece of paper, practice it so when you get there, you don't sound like a robot.
Great tip.
But you should definitely practice that and just be ready to have that. You can even say something as far as, you've gone as far as you can in your current role and you're looking for another opportunity or your next career move, right? That could easily be something that you could mention as well, which would at least give that person an idea of why you're there at the networking event.
Right. It's a good opportunity to explain exactly what you're looking for specifically. Always be specific.
Exactly. And again, it gives an absolute overview of why you're there and what your goals are, right? So the third networking do is to carry a pen and paper. Now, I know this may be a little tough because even Andrea and I, we go into meetings sometimes and we have an iPad or our phone and we take notes on our phone. But, I believe when you're going into a networking event and if you're specifically going to an event to possibly advance your career or get a job, you want to be as prepared as possible. Right, Andrea?
That's so true.
Yeah, so whether you have the technology or not, you just seem more prepared when you have a pen and paper, and you can jot down as many notes as you can about the people you meet, and then other things that will be important in the follow-up.
Absolutely. And so, you're talking to someone who typically never has a pen. I always have my phone. So I always actually note everything in my phone. But I really should start carrying a pen and pad, and that's a good tip, and I'm going to start doing that.
It's a good idea, Andrea. Although I hope you're not networking anywhere for another job because we really enjoy working with you here.
Not right now. Thank you.
All right. So similar to carrying a pen and paper, if you can and if you have business cards, that'd be great to have. It's just an easy thing that you can give somebody with your contact information. There's many resources online where you can get business cards, Vistaprint. There's a lot of other, if you just Google it, free business cards. There may even be some sites, but usually it's about $5 to $10 for about 100 business cards. Or you can go to Staples, and they even have printer paper there where you can print out business cards, or they have machines there where they can do it for you.
Exactly.
But if you can take business cards, it's a great suggestion.
It is, and that's a good resource, Vistaprint and/or Staples.
Yep.
So we're going to get into the next do, and this is something that comes easy to a few people and maybe not so easy to some. And, you know, it may be harder for those who are introverted and shy. This do is remember to be friendly and easy to approach. It can be difficult to meet strangers, but if you're open and you have a smile on your face and you appear friendly, then it's easier for someone to approach you and start a conversation. It's, you know, it's just you have to smile. I think people tend to gravitate toward people who seem more approachable and who's smiling, and, you know, you're just ready. You know, your energy is right to accept people. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's easy for me. But
yeah, I was going to say, for those of you who don't know, Andrea is definitely a socialite on our team, very outgoing personality and just a great person to be around. So this would come easy to you. But there are many other people, you know, even such as myself, when I first started really networking and going to events. When I was consulting, I actually would go to quite a few events every single week.
Wow.
And the first few was definitely awkward because when you go into a networking event, there's typically a group of people that already know each other or at an event.
Yeah.
And it's awkward or tough sometimes to break into that, right?
I get it. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So you want to be aware of that, but it's okay. And, you know, you don't always have to be very outgoing. You can still go there and meet lots of people. So the last key do is to be ready with an icebreaker or some just kind of general discussion topic.
Right.
So this will actually help, you know, some of you that may be a little more introverted, a little more quiet, a little less outgoing. You could go there, and if it's a medical billing and coding event, maybe you're prepared to discuss something about ICD-10, which is one of the medical billing and coding, you know, coding certificates that you have to get. Maybe it's about a recent article that you read in a journal or Time magazine or anything like that. But, you know, I think it's important if you're going there for a job or an industry-related event to make sure you have some level of knowledge or some discussion topic when you get there. Right.
Absolutely, Rustam. And if I can add something on to that, it also shows your interest in the industry that you're in or the industry you're looking to enter. You know, honestly, look at information on the healthcare industry as a whole and read up on a couple of healthcare companies or insurance companies that may be present at this networking event. Maybe you already know what companies are going to be there. Whatever companies are going to be attending your event, make sure you have some information already. You've done your intel. You've done your research on those companies.
Yep.
That helps to break the ice. You want to prepare a few things to discuss because people enjoy talking to people who have interesting things to say.
Absolutely. And it's a fantastic point. So, you know, whenever we interview people, right, Andrea, here at Ultimate Medical Academy, or if we're looking for new team members, when they come and they've done some research or they're discussing topics related to, you know, UMA or the healthcare field in general, that's always a plus. Right, that shows that they've taken those steps to really come prepared.
Definitely.
So that's huge. Yeah, and so to that point, I think it's also important to mention a few things about yourself.
Yeah,
right?
that's interesting.
Things about your personality.
Yeah.
Some of your hobbies.
Right.
Why you enjoy healthcare. Why you're looking to get into healthcare.
Exactly.
But one of the main things here is you want to stay positive. You want to make sure you avoid being negative or talking about how you hate your current job.
Never.
You're trying to get out of retail. You're trying to get out of the restaurant industry. You really want to focus on some positive things about you.
Right. I agree. I agree absolutely. And I think you kind of maybe missed one. Don't talk about yourself too long.
That's true. You don't want to sit there and just brag about yourself for 20 minutes, right?
Exactly.
That's true.
So now that we've gone through the do's, we're going to move on to the don'ts. These are things you want to avoid when you're networking or when you're attending a networking event. The first don't is don't be shy or afraid to talk with people. Everyone is there to meet others and network. For some, just like yourself, it may be their first networking event. So don't get caught up in the fact that you're the only one there this is your first networking event. So what you need to do when you get ready to walk through that door, take a deep breath, walk through the door, and have your goals in mind. Be ready to talk to people. Don't be shy and don't be afraid. Leave that shyness at the door. Don't speak to just one person. It's okay to excuse yourself and talk to others.
Yeah, absolutely. That's key.
Yes.
That is huge. You could spend the entire networking event, if it's an hour or two, speaking to one person.
Right.
I've had this happen many times where I'll just be speaking with somebody, and I don't want to be rude. I don't want to walk away because they're talking and talking, but it's absolutely okay to say, it was great meeting you. Appreciate the opportunity. We'll definitely stay in touch, but I need to go to the restroom, or I'm going to go speak with a few other people.
Exactly.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
And then playing off of that, the number 2 don't is to remember to not just go to a networking event, find the one table that has nobody sitting there, and sit down and eat your food.
Right.
Or drink your coffee, or have your lunch. That is not why you're there. Exactly. And so it's okay to have some coffee and some snacks while you're there if they're there, but I can tell you, you want to make sure you sit with multiple people and interact with as many people as possible.
Agreed. The whole purpose of a networking function is to get around and talk to people. So make sure you get out and do that.
All right. So this number 3, Andrea, I love this one. Let's hear it.
So number 3, this is a number 3 don't. Don't drink excessively. If there are cocktails at a networking event, and there are events that are cocktail hour, happy hour, do not drink excessively. I've witnessed people who have had 3, 4, or 5 drinks, then they're unable to talk and network because they've had too much to drink. They're stumbling, they're fumbling. You don't want to leave a bad impression on people, especially in a professional environment. Just because it's a happy hour or a cocktail hour.
Or open bar.
That doesn't mean unprofessional, I'm going to drink everything I can. That means let me have one drink. I'm going to sip this drink all night, and I'm going to maintain my professionalism. You never know when you're going to meet someone who's a hiring manager of a company that you would like to work for.
Excellent.
So in the future, it's okay to have one drink and then stop there.
Yep. No, absolutely. 2 if it's a 3 or 4 hour event, maybe, right?
I would just say stick to one.
Andrea said stick to one. So I even take this to the extreme. When I was attending networking events, I would not have breakfast. I would not have coffee. I would not have anything. I had one goal in mind, and that was to meet as many people as possible.
That's true.
And I didn't want my hands with coffee and a pastry because I wanted to write notes.
Right.
So personally, I would take it to the extreme. But definitely a good point there. So networking number 4. Okay? Don't talk negative about your current position.
That's a big don't.
Right? You do not want to spill the beans about how you hate your job, how bad your boss is, how you can't stand what you're doing. People do not want to hear somebody talk about the negative things, right? So stay positive. You want to leave a good impression. Just keep that out. Just think positive, and don't worry about talking about your current position. If you don't like where you're at, just say you're looking for the next opportunity. It's okay.
Exactly. Right? I mean, again, you never know who you're speaking with and how they might impact your future. So it's best to keep any sort of negative thoughts to yourself in that situation. The person that you're talking to, if you're being negative, they may know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and what you're saying could get back and directly affect you in a really bad way. So definitely keep it positive.
Yeah.
So the last point that we would like to get across as a don't is don't talk about your problems or challenges. And we mentioned this before, but, you know, it's still a huge don't. You're there to network. You're in a professional environment. You're there to meet people, you know, who are professionals. They may be able to help you in your career. They may know someone who's hiring. Your main focus for being at that networking event is to further your career, meet people, and you might also
opportunities.
Yeah,
right?
opportunities.
Look for opportunities.
You may become a mentor to someone as well. So that's not the place to air your problems.
Yep, absolutely.
It's just not the forum to complain about your current situation. Yep. Focus on your goal and a positive future.
So, okay, we've covered the key do's and don'ts. Now let's jump into who you should network with and how to meet those people, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a key. All right, we've learned the do's and don'ts. Let's figure out who and how to meet those people. Did you know that according to a 2016 survey done by the Adler Group, 85% of all jobs are filled from networking?
That's a big number.
That's incredible. I read that stat and I didn't believe it, although when I think about my career, most of my positions that I've had have been from networking.
Right.
So that could be true. So who can you connect with that could impact your career, right? That's the question we should be asking.
Good question.
Yep. All right, so the first group that you should be networking with is your friends. Why not?
They're
the
right there.
People who know you the best, and they're right there. So you might think that networking is only at events, but really it's not. You could be networking 100% of the time with your friends being aware that you're potentially looking for an opportunity or a job, right?
True.
It can happen at home, in your neighborhood, any of the different maybe groups that you're a part of.
Right, right.
So tell your friends that you're looking. Tell your friends you're a proud UMA grad and that you're looking to get a job. And if you are currently working, that you're looking for another opportunity. It's okay to let friends know these things. Secondly, I would ask your friends, take it one step further and ask your friends that if they know anybody in the healthcare field or know anybody who's looking for an employee, that they let you know.
True.
And that they look out for you and let you know who that is and give you some information so you could follow up.
Good advice.
And thirdly, your friends are a huge asset because they could be going to the dentist, they could be going to the doctor's office, they could be going to the pharmacist.
We all do.
Yeah, we all do. And easily they could ask and say, hey, are you guys hiring? It's a very simple question. And if they could do that for you and if they hear a yes, they can let you know and you can go in there. It's that simple. You can expand your networking. That's part of networking, right?
Exactly. And family. Don't forget your family.
Oh, absolutely. Family, you can trust family to get out there. They're at doctor's offices. They're at pharmacists. They're at CVS. They're going to the hospital. Make sure you let everybody in your network, from your friends to your family, know that you are looking for an opportunity. And so when they're sitting at the dentist's office, they're talking about you and or asking if there's any opportunities.
Exactly. And to piggyback off of that, not only utilizing friends and family to network, you should also utilize your current and past coworkers. You might currently be in a position where you're ready to move on from where you are currently, or you're looking to relocate to a new city. I have a personal story where I used my coworker to get a job in another city.
I love this story, by the way.
I was actually working at an ad agency in Miami, and I was only there for 3 months. My husband had a job transfer to Atlanta, and so I knew I was relocating. I spoke with my media director and told her I was relocating, and it just so happened that one of our clients was in, and he was from Atlanta. She introduced the two of us. He handed me his business card and said, when you get to Atlanta, call me. So you know what I did? I called him when I finally relocated to Atlanta, and he remembered me. We had a brief discussion about the ad agency, and he actually connected me with a contact at a company that was hiring. And so although I didn't get the position I interviewed for at that company, I was offered a different position at that company. And that was all because I stayed in touch with a contact who I networked with one time for 5 minutes.
You never know, right?
Never know.
That's the power of networking.
It's definitely the power of networking.
Yep.
When someone hands you a business card and says, call me, utilize that resource.
Yep.
Call them, text them, connect with them on LinkedIn. It doesn't matter.
It may not be now, but it may be in the future. Right?
Absolutely. It could be a year from now. It could be 6 months from now. But when you're networking with coworkers, I also want to include only let people know if you're relocating or if you trust this person to keep information confidential.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the last thing you want to do is end up in a situation where you lose your job because you told a current coworker your plans.
Yep.
So be very, very private with your information.
Yeah, and I think to that end, it's also okay to let your coworkers know at times and or your boss know at times because you're looking for another opportunity. You're looking for that next move.
Right.
And so it's really up to you to kind of make that decision, but if it makes sense, then go ahead and do it.
Exactly.
Let them know. It just expands the people that are looking out for you.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yep.
And it's easier if you're relocating, but, definitely continue to utilize your resources.
Yep, absolutely.
So another network to utilize is your classmates, high school classmates, UMA classmates, et cetera.
Facebook's probably a really good one for this, right?
Yeah.
How many high school friends are you connected with on Facebook?
Yes, and I was actually going to mention that one, but I'm going to mention another one.
Okay.
If you haven't already logged on to LinkedIn.com, that is another huge networking resource. LinkedIn.com. Create a profile for yourself and connect with classmates, coworkers, strangers. It doesn't matter. LinkedIn is a great resource for employers to also find you.
And we'll talk about how LinkedIn's a great resource in a little bit as well.
Definitely.
So the last two networks to utilize are teachers and professors, right?
Oh, yeah.
So in your schooling that you've had, there's plenty of teachers or professors that are within the industry that know people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
They're a perfect person to let know that you're potentially looking and see if they have any opportunities.
True.
And then finally, anybody in the healthcare field. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a dentist, interestingly enough, where the dental tech is a graduate of UMA.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing to me, but my dentist, actually the dental tech, was a UMA grad, and she noticed where I work, Ultimate Medical Academy, and she had mentioned that she did exactly that. That was her dentist that she eventually ended up getting a job with.
What are the odds?
Right. So absolutely anybody in the healthcare field, you're going to doctor's offices, you're going to dentist offices, it's perfectly okay to ask if they're hiring.
Sure is.
Andrea, what's the next topic that we're going to jump into?
Okay, so you're probably wondering, where do I find these networking events? I know how to network. I know who to network with. I know the do's and don'ts of networking, but where am I going to go for networking? So before we jump into the tips of where to network, we'd like to survey you guys to find out who's attended a networking event this year. You can go ahead and click yes or no on the poll on your screen. We'll leave this up for a few seconds and then share the results.
All right, I'm interested to see this.
Me too. I want to know how many people have already been to a networking event.
Okay, so we'll close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it looks like the majority have not attended a networking event. So this might be their first for the year or just their first in general.
Okay.
We do have a few that have attended, so these are good tips for them as well. You just always got to feel comfortable.
Great, yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunity here, which is great. We
Definitely.
hope you guys get a lot out of this. I think we're going to get into some areas where you can network, and it may not even be in person, which is really powerful.
Absolutely. One way, speaking of that, one way you can find local networking events is to just Google local events. It's that simple. I mean, virtual networking is huge because we're all so connected these days. Google healthcare industry events in Tampa, Florida, for instance, or New York City, or whatever city you're in, and several networking events will come up. Another place you can find networking events is through meetup.com. We did a sample search in meetup.com, and what we found is what you see on your screen. There are groups that are related to healthcare, groups that are related to women's associations, different groups. I mean, whatever you're looking for, you can find on different sites.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sites. So there's a ton of local groups that are healthcare related, fitness related, whatever your interest is.
Yep, absolutely. This is a perfect example. We did this pretty quickly, right, Andrea? And look at all these groups that have come up, and this is just one company, which is meetup.com.
Exactly.
Another place that I've had a lot of success networking is local chambers of commerce. Every city has a local chamber of commerce.
They sure do.
And I would probably say that most of them have events every week. So there's always events to go, and typically the first one that you go to, or many of them, may be free and have great opportunity for you to just see what it's like.
Very true. Very true.
Even practice your skills.
Right, right.
Which is always important.
Definitely a great event to get some practice in. And believe it or not, Facebook isn't just for friends and family.
Really?
Facebook also carries a lot of job-related opportunities. There are job fairs posted on Facebook all the time. You can perform a quick search. For instance, if you look at your
We have that here, right?
Yeah, we performed a quick search really quick for healthcare job fair. And as you can see, there are several job fairs for whatever city you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Job fairs are huge. They're always happening. You can look in your local paper. You can look in flyers. You can Google it. But the key here is when you do go to a job fair, make sure you bring enough resumes. Have 25, 50, 100 resumes, because typically there's that many companies at these job fairs.
So true.
And it happens all the time.
And if you haven't already, sign up for Connect UMA so that you can network with your fellow alumni. Even if you don't find a job on Connect UMA or you're not looking for a job, you'll actually be in contact with other alumni in your industry, and that also expands your network.
So Alexis, who is hosting the webinar, is one of our leads on Connect UMA, and we've seen it to be a real powerful and great platform. We've seen some great results with people connecting and actually finding career opportunities through Connect UMA, which has been great. So if you're not on there, definitely get on there. And then going back to LinkedIn, there are a ton of groups on LinkedIn. So we did a quick search on LinkedIn and just put medical billing and coding groups, I think was our search.
Yeah.
And we found a group that has 40,000 members on LinkedIn.
Huge.
You could easily ask to join and just mention that you're a healthcare professional. If you join this group, you would have access to 40,000 people in the medical billing and coding field.
And
that's huge.
And not just those 40,000 people. You're sometimes connected also with the people that they're connected with.
That's true.
And if you're connected to someone on LinkedIn, then you have access to who they're connected
100%.
with.
100%. That's part of the network.
That's networking.
Network and networking.
Yes.
We put the network in networking.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So we've covered the where to network. Let's move on to creating goals around networking, because you don't want to attend a networking event without a few goals in mind. You can't just go in, with no goals. So set a few goals for yourself. First of all, how many events do you want to attend a month? Do you want to attend one a week, one a month, or 10 a month? Secondly, what is your number one goal when attending an event? Are you looking for a job? Are you looking to grow in your current position? Are you looking for a mentor?
Yeah.
You know, are you meeting people? You just want to expand your resources.
Great. Yeah, great points, Andrea.
Yeah.
You know, I would take this and I would absolutely have a goal at the networking events that I would go to. When I was consulting, I would go in to a networking event and say, I want to meet 4 potential clients in this networking event, and that was my goal.
That's a great goal.
Not every time did I meet 4 potential clients, but it added up. When I went to more networking events, I built up a network of 15, 20 potential clients,
right?
Which worked really well.
Exactly.
So absolutely, that's huge. You want to go in there with a goal, and it could be a simple goal.
Right. Exactly.
Get a job.
Yeah.
Right?
That's easy. Easy. Goal identified.
Yeah.
I mean, I guarantee that made you feel more comfortable also, Rustam, going into that event, you know, knowing what your goal was.
Absolutely. I wasn't just, you know, in there meeting folks or people that didn't have any relevance to what I was trying to do. I was really trying to find clients.
Right.
And so that was my number one goal.
Right, exactly. And I can probably guess what you did after the networking event, because you don't just leave, go home, and forget that you just went to a networking event. You know, you write down the names of the people you met with and something that was unique about that person. Maybe it's the conversation you had, the company they work for. Maybe they told a funny story. Or maybe it might be their position at that company. Anything that you can use, because you want to follow up with the people that you met. If someone handed you a business card, follow up and use whatever unique story that you experienced at that networking event in order to connect with them in your follow-up. So, I mean, take action on those goals and remember something about the individual you spoke to.
Absolutely. Make it personal.
Yes.
Let them know that you're paying attention to what they were saying. Write those notes down. Remember that pen and paper we were talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's on your phone, that's fine. But just make sure if you get a business card, write on the back of the business card. I used to do this all the time. If it was a business card, I would write the person I met, what we talked about, and some key highlights of our discussion.
Good tips.
That was great because when I followed up and I made the call and followed up back or emailed, I could put that in the email or I could talk about that.
It's quick and easy.
Absolutely.
I mean, at the end of the day, follow-up is so important, and that should also be inclusive in your goal to follow up.
All right. So we've talked about the do's and don'ts in networking, where to network, who to network with, creating goals. The last thing we should cover, Andrea, is remembering that networking is not only while you're looking for a job. You should always be networking.
Absolutely. ABN.
All right.
Yes, it is very, very important to stay in touch with the people you meet through your networking events. I would say it's beneficial to attend at least one networking event a month. But whatever your goal is, there's no, tried and true. I mean, just whatever your goal is, just set the goal, define the goal. Be sure to stay in touch with people because the networking continues even after you've landed the job. You don't just network, get the job, and then you're done. Always continue to expand your network and expand your resources. You never know when you're going to need career advice, or you just may need a mentor. It can be helpful for professional opportunities. It could be helpful when you want to grow in your position. You just don't want people to get the impression that you're only networking for yourself and a job.
Yeah, absolutely. Very true. And always be willing to help others who have helped you, right?
Very true.
What goes around comes around.
Definitely.
I remember in one of the networking events I was at, there was a gentleman who was a branch manager for a bank, and I had helped him over a few months get a few people to open bank accounts with him.
Oh, yeah.
And we built that relationship, and he reached back out to me, and he actually asked me to come speak in front of 50 to 100 business owners.
That's great.
At a networking event because I had helped him. He came back and helped me, and I met a lot of business owners that way. So absolutely, what goes around comes around. Always be willing to give back and to help.
For sure. You're not networking only to help yourself. You want to elevate yourself to a position where you're able to assist others. I mean, what networking is really about is mentoring and helping future healthcare professionals. You can help previous classmates, your family members. It doesn't matter. Being a mentor, it can be very rewarding to someone who's interested in giving back to others in their community.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Andrea, so we're wrapping up pretty close now. So before we move into the Q&A, do you mind just kind of summarizing what we've talked about?
Absolutely.
Some of the key highlights.
Key highlights. Number one, networking is all about exchanging information, developing contacts, and formulating relationships. You can do this by networking with your family, friends, coworkers, classmates, teachers, people you meet at networking events. Anyone you meet out is a contact that you can use as a professional connection. Every interaction is a networking opportunity. You can network online, at networking events in person, which you can find through Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, and sites like meetup.com. So before you attend a networking event, don't forget that you want to create several goals around what your purpose is at that networking event. How many people you're going to speak with, how many events you're going to attend. And finally, networking, it's a lifelong journey, and it shouldn't end after you've landed the job. You should continue to nurture those networking relationships and be willing to definitely give back to those who have assisted you.
Great. So thanks, Andrea and Rustam, on presenting on this topic about networking. So before we begin our question and answer session, we want to ask everybody that's listening if they could to leave us a quick review on Google Online. Feel free to share your experience with schooling at UMA, this webinar, or whatever you'd want to share. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can visit ultimatemedical.edu/Google, and it's as simple as that. So it looks like we went over a little bit on the presentation, but we had so many great things to say, so it's okay. We're going to go into Q&A now. So feel free to send your questions. We'll try and cover as many as possible. We're here. We can stay a few extra minutes. Hopefully you guys can too. Yep. This is one of our favorite things with the webinar. So we've got our first question. So what do you do when you have a brain freeze, or you say maybe you clam up and you don't know what to say when you're speaking to someone? What do you do?
So I'll tell you what I would do. I would always just have 3 topics that I can always discuss, whether I am in a situation where I'm not that comfortable or in a situation where I'm not that confident. So this is where the defining your goal and pre-planning before a networking event comes in handy. Always have 3 things that you can discuss regardless, blindfolded. You're in a hole somewhere.
Yeah, that's great.
Those 3 things, whatever those things are, it could be the weather, it could be a movie you just saw, whatever those 3 things are, find those 3 things, and that can be your center.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Andrea. When you're at this event, you have so many things that have brought you to this event. So you have, let's say you've graduated and you've received your degree. You can talk about your favorite class, why it was your favorite class. You could talk about something over the weekend that was positive that happened.
So true.
You could even be as open to say, I just kind of lost my train of thought. I'll think about that for a minute. But this weekend, I was just thinking about this networking event, and I prepared this for it, right? Or you could talk about where you're currently working and why you're looking for the next opportunity.
Right.
So, like you said, be prepared for that to possibly happen, because it can happen.
It definitely can happen.
And it does happen.
It does happen. I can talk a long time, and I'm a pretty extrovert person, and I just always have just 3 things that I can always talk about in any given situation.
Rustam, if I recall, you like to talk about sports?
That's correct.
Favorite sports?
That's right. I
love sports.
I always talk about the Florida Gators. I hope I didn't offend anybody that's listening right now. but I typically will always talk about that or something fun that happened when I was at school, some lesson I learned, and something like that.
And I'll add to that also be prepared to ask a few questions of people at the networking event. You not just have three things that you could talk about yourself. Also have 3 questions that no matter what, if you do get brain freeze, conjure up that question that you pre-planned and ask the person that question.
Yeah, because that can just take it off of you and put it back onto them.
Exactly.
And that's perfect.
Definitely.
Good point.
What should I do if my elevator statement runs long?
Yeah, so I think the key here is to practice.
Definitely.
Practice. I know it's silly, but stand in front of the mirror, get your pen, paper, whatever you have it, and practice it to where you have it nailed down. And if it goes a little long, that's okay. It can be 30 seconds. It can be a minute. It all depends. You want to keep it short and sweet, but it's okay if it goes a little long. You just don't want it to turn into a lifelong story.
Right.
You really want it to kind of reflect your goal of why you're there and who you are.
Exactly.
And the impact you can have, right?
It should include your key point. What do you want that person to take away after meeting you?
Yeah,
That's what your elevator pitch should include.
It's a great question, though. Absolutely,
because
that does happen.
Yeah, it does. And you just don't know because you don't know that it's going long because you're so excited to be there. You're enjoying the person you're speaking with.
Absolutely.
So it's practice. It's definitely practice so that you can get that pitch down to maybe 15 to 30 seconds max.
With anything like this where you're presenting yourself or you're presenting, you want to be as prepared as possible.
Yeah.
So you want to think about the different scenarios or the different situations and so on. And so the more you practice, the better prepared you'll be.
And the more networking events you attend,
that's correct.
The easier this gets.
That's absolutely right.
You may not nail it on your first one, but after you've gone to about 10, you should be a pro.
Yeah, that's right. Practice makes perfect.
Definitely.
Right. What are some effective ways that you can gain experience as a recent graduate and maybe talk about those during your networking event?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, with any job that you're going for right after you graduate, there's many different companies that are always looking for people to come in as interns or right out of school to get their feet wet, potentially come in as, externships as well. So there's a lot of opportunities outside of just going and jumping right in if you don't have that experience. There's lots of ways to gain that experience.
Sometimes you also have to accept a job that may not be what your exact major was, but it may either be at a company you'd like to work for. It may not be your dream job. It may not be your ideal salary to start, but you have to get your foot in the door, and you also have to gain some experience, whether it's in the healthcare industry, whether it's in the insurance industry, but it should be closely related to your degree. But when you're starting out, you may not, just keep in mind, you may not get your dream job, but you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, and another great resource, at least that I know we have at Ultimate Medical Academy, is our Career Resource Center.
Yeah.
There are a number of folks that is what they focus on. They have so many resources of companies that may be looking for those types of roles in people. And then we also have a lot of professors and instructors that are always willing to teach and help as well. So there's a lot of resources here that I'm very aware of, and so feel free to reach out to somebody at our school, and we can definitely help you there.
Agreed.
Yep, and we've got an email on the slide, alumni@ultimatemedical.edu. You can always send an email there, and then we'll get you connected with the right person for what your request is.
Yeah, great question.
So another question, what constitutes a professional email? Is a Gmail considered professional?
Yes, Gmail is definitely a professional email. A professional email is an email that utilizes your given name at birth. I know some people want to use cutesy email names, but always keep it professional. Use your first name, first initial, last name, if you want to combine your name and your kid's name somehow, but make sure it stays professional. You do not want to use anything that's explicit, that is, I mean, if you wouldn't tell your mom, like some people like to say, if you wouldn't share it with your mom, don't put it on your email.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's definitely emails when we see applications come in that you wouldn't want to use.
Yeah.
And you can also create an email account. You can create a free Gmail account, a Hotmail account,
absolutely,
and create a professional account. If you do have another account that's more for personal, you can create one for your professional career.
But Gmail is an excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Gmail is perfect.
Excellent email address.
Yep.
Okay, so here's another question. How can talking negatively about an experience affect you during networking?
Yeah, so I guess that important thing there is what context is that being talked about in. So if you're complaining about the experience and you're being very negative, then that's going to come out as you're complaining and you're a negative person and you're disgruntled. If you want to talk about how you feel that wasn't a right environment for you and there was a lot of negativity in that environment and you're really looking for a better environment, that is a positive spin on that scenario where you're thinking about the opportunity to improve and get out of that environment, but you're not talking bad about the environment. Exactly. That would be a perfect way to go about that.
That was really good advice. Like Rustam said, I would, if you want to, discuss a negative situation, always turn it into a positive spin.
Yep.
So you may say how you were unhappy at your last job, but you can also include, but I am very anxious, I'm very excited to see what my future holds, Yeah,
exactly. 100%. Yeah, good.
Okay, Rustam and Andrea, any advice if you attend a job fair and the company actually refuses to take your resume and tells you to go online?
Yeah, so companies are different.
Right.
All companies are different.
Mm-hmm.
Some don't want the paper. They have a process of how they do things.
Right.
You have to do it through a certain system because of how they process applications. It's perfectly okay if they say that. If they do, you should have that copy hopefully online.
Right.
Or you can find it at a Kinko's or a FedEx where you can actually scan it and put it as a digital copy and maybe email it to them.
Exactly.
But there's usually the reason for that is because of their recruiting platform or their system or their software that they use requires a digital copy.
Right. And don't take it personal.
Yep,
it's just the way that they accept, it's just the way that they recruit. If you do have your resume, that's great. I mean, always keep it with you, always have it with you, because there may be a company or you may run into someone who says, hey, do you have a resume with you? Because just because that company doesn't accept that resume doesn't mean that you're not going to run into someone at that networking event who says, hey, my company is hiring. Do you have a resume with you that I can pass to the hiring manager? So, yeah, don't take it as a negative and don't take it personal. So just, follow their instructions and say thank you very much.
Okay, so we've got a few more questions that we'll answer before we end this webinar. How long before you follow up?
Great.
That's a great question.
Like a dating question.
It's a dating question. Honestly, there's no exact answer. I think it's different based on the relationship you experienced with that person. It depends on, how soon are you ready to relocate. It may be how soon are you ready to leave your current job. So I would say definitely you probably don't want to call them from your car on the way home from the networking event. But maybe I would say a couple of days would be okay to, give it a couple of days.
Yeah, and I would say my thought on that is I used to always follow up the next day in the morning, first thing, because usually at a networking event it's either in the afternoon or evening. Typically people are going home after that and going to bed. Yeah. But the next morning is typically when I would send out my emails or my follow-up.
So, just feel it out.
Yep.
Just feel it out.
Okay, here's a question I love.
Okay.
Can your Facebook profile affect an employer's decision as a new hire?
Ooh, this is a tough one.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it can.
It can.
Bottom line, yes.
It can. And so that's why you read all of those things out there that say be careful as much as possible when posting things on social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, because employers do research on those things. I know we do research on those, and many companies that I've been a part of, it's standard practice to do research on that. Now, we also know as companies that people have a fun side to them. Right? But they do look and see those profiles, and some people may make judgments based on that and have biases if they see things that just are inappropriate.
Right.
It's pretty easy to find a Facebook profile. You might think that changing your last name or something hides it, but
yeah, it's easy to find you. Yeah. I mean, my advice would be just always keep it appropriate. You just never know who's going to be looking at your Facebook profile, your Twitter profile, or your Instagram. I mean, the whole purpose of networking is to remain positive. Granted, people go through, negative things in their lives, but you want to keep it positive, especially if you are looking for a job. So you try to keep it as positive as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Is it better to jump into working out of school or wait a year or so?
Yeah, I would say right away.
Right away.
The sooner you can get the experience, the better. It's really that simple.
Agreed.
The more you'll get into it, even if that first job isn't perfect, you will learn a lot.
Right.
And you'll be able to move on to the next opportunity. So yeah, absolutely, I would jump in as soon as possible.
For sure.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Final question. Why does it take so long for an employer to respond to somebody after a job fair?
Ooh, that is, in my experience, I know I've been in the game a long time, and there are, sometimes when you attend a job fair, there could be 3,000 attendees sometimes, and that means that company has to go through that many resumes to find the one person or the two people for the job opening that they have. So it takes them a while to get through the information that they've received at some of those job fairs. That's why it's important to define your goal of how many networking events or job fairs that you are going to attend, because you don't want to just sit around and wait for that one networking event or job fair you attended. Continue to go to the next one and the next one. The more you attend, the better your chances are of getting a response.
Yeah, and I would say to add to that, be persistent. It's okay if they're taking a little bit of time. Keep following up as much as possible, even if it's once a week or every few days. There's nothing wrong with following up. You can't follow up too much.
I agree.
What are they going to say? No?
Exactly. And
they're not responding anyway, so you might as well just follow up to keep on top of it.
Just always be professional in your follow-ups.
Yeah,
don't
100%.
let your frustration show.
Right. That's a great point, Alexis. Yeah, definitely don't let your frustration show. Again, don't take it so personal.
They could be going through, like Andrea said, thousands of resumes.
Okay, so I think that wraps everything up. We hope you guys enjoyed this webinar and learned some good tips for networking. Hope you feel more comfortable. And we are here if you guys need anything, so feel free to reach out, and we hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you.